Welcome to the Jaguar Podcast, a show where we discuss all things related to Duval County's finest NFL football team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Blue 42, set, what?
Duval, baby! Hey everybody, this is Andrew and welcome to episode 21 of the Jaguar Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be switching up the format a little bit and be doing a discussion with ex-IWFL player, NFL film analyst, and host of the Ponytails Talking Pigskins podcast. It's Laurie Fitzpatrick. I really enjoyed our discussion and I hope you do as well. If you'd like to follow her on Twitter, her Twitter handle is @LaurieFitzpatrick. Here's my discussion with the great Laurie Fitzpatrick. So, Laurie, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me on.
So, I'm a huge fan of your film analysis, how you kind of break down the Jaguars plays on Twitter. And I was just kind of curious, how did you get into that?
Oh, well, I used to play, actually. So that's really how, I began watching film was as an ex-football player. So it was, that's the main key on how to know your opponent and how to beat your opponent. Film and football is, it's gold. So just as long as you can get that upper hand, football is like a chess game. So the more you know about your opponent, the better chance you'll have a win in the game.
Yeah, and I know you played in the WFL, right?
Yeah, the IWFL. I played in the also the WFA, and then also the LFL, the Lingerie League. But luckily I was just on the practice squad. I never had to wear the uniform actually though, but it was the last year of my football career, and those girls really know how to run the routes, and they have some pretty good coaches in that league. So it was definitely something to keep my, football addiction going as my season or as my career was coming to a close.
Okay. So I'm just kind of curious, how did you become a Jaguars fan?
Well, it's a funny story actually. I had a next door neighbor who, I guess you could say maybe I had a crush on. But we were at the age really young, like 8, 9 years old, and he was a Dan Marino fan. And when you're younger, you may like somebody else, and sometimes you make fun of each other. So I began kind of like, I grew up and he began starting to be someone that, him and I always kind of like fought a lot, but we wrestled sometimes, and I began to just follow and pick on him about Dan Marino. Well, when the Dolphins got booted out of the playoffs because the Jaguars beat them so bad and ended his career, honestly, that was when I became a Jacksonville fan.
Yeah.
By the end there, it was great. So I grew up in the Philadelphia suburb. So my family is, they kind of hate me for not being an Eagles fan, but hey, I had to represent at least myself. So I just decided, pick the Dolphins, and pretty much me and my neighbor fought all the time since then.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. I think the Jaguars ran up, 60 points on the Dolphins.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was one of the most amazing moments ever. And actually, Jimmy Johnson was the head coach, and he used to be with the Cowboys. So my family didn't really mind because, at least the Eagles, because the whole rivalry, Eagles and Cowboys. So at least when I became a Jaguars fan, they just put him into retirement as well. So that was, what a great game. I think it was 62-7.
Yeah. Fred Taylor had an amazing game. Mark Brunell lit it up. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, Fred Taylor, he was kind of why I became such a fan of running backs, and that's the position I played as well. He was, ground and pound, but he had speed and he could make the juke when he needed to. Him and him and the guy from the Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson, him and LaDainian were my running backs that I used to watch highlights of growing up. They were amazing backs. Oh man.
Yeah. Fred Taylor's definitely one of my favorite players from the Jaguars, and Leonard Fournette. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities there with their styles of running. Run east-west, north-south, power runners.
Definitely.
So
Putting
it's pretty
his
awesome
head down
to watch.
right into the shoulder pads. Yeah, it's great. It's great, especially when he's been breaking, a couple of those long runs in the last couple games. So, and it's been crucial. So you love to see. There was actually one play where he stiff-armed 2 Broncos players as he ran out of the off to the sideline. But it's amazing when you get to see a guy that can run over somebody and then also beat them on a foot race, down to the end zone. It's something amazing to see.
Yeah. So let's talk Jaguars here. Quarterback Gardner Minshew, he's a rookie. Filled in for Nick Foles. After Nick Foles got hurt during the season. What are your thoughts on him? I mean, do you think this guy's the real deal or what?
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. I remember when in the preseason, I didn't get much chance. Now I regret it. I didn't get much chance watching a lot of. I didn't get a great chance to watch a lot of the film on him. It's really hard to get a hold of, college film. We also had, some pretty other good players drafted, like Josh Allen. So, and Quincy Williams, there was a lot of those guys that I was in Armstead as well, that I was focusing a lot of my, film watching on. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see a lot of Minshew, but in the preseason, I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of videos, things that I've tweeted saying how great, he has great vision. He's able to read a defense. He makes audibles, and this was something that he was doing only, a couple weeks into his entire NFL career. And, ever since then, I was like, this guy has something special about him. He's really confident. He can throw in those tight windows, something that Jaguars fans didn't see a lot with Blake Bortles. So somebody that's going to take chances, and, he's able to pull off that amazing stash. He's something that Jacksonville is going to love for, I would say, the next at least 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The guy, I think, was a little underrated coming into this season. I think there were some questions about his arm strength. Mm-hmm. Of course, he took some real big shots. I think that first game in the Ravens preseason game. Yeah, I think his helmet was the MVP of that game.
Man.
Yeah, but
it went a lot of yards.
But yeah. So, but I've been very impressed as well. I think he's bringing a lot of energy to Jacksonville. Really kind of getting the fans, excited, and I'm really excited to see, what happens. And I agree. I think he definitely reads defense a lot better than Blake Bortles. And, I think he's got a really good, quick release there where he could just zip the ball in there fast, to DJ Chark and his wide receivers. So, I think
he's really mobile inside of the pocket as well. I think he's got great footwork. He knows how to use his body. And he has great vision, to elude. He's elusive in the pocket, and then can plant his feet and make a strike downfield. It's pretty amazing to see, actually.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to go back to Leonard Fournette here. He had a slow start this season, and I just want to kind of pick your brain on this. Do you think this was to kind of because of John DeFilippo's system, or do you think it's because of the offensive line? Because, the last 2 games, he rushed for over 100 yards. So I was just kind of curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, against the Chiefs, he didn't do that well. And the Titans, he didn't even break 100 either. He got 88 yards, I believe, that game, or the offense got 88 yards. I know that Minshew was actually running around a little bit too that game, and it's something where when they have more guys from the line to pull and give him the room, then that's when he really breaks one. And when he gets angry too, when he runs mad, he does well. And I think it's something where if you give him the fullback and you put Minshew under center and you allow Leonard Fournette to get at least 3 steps before he hits the line, then I think his chances go way up than from when you're kind of like doing a double fake, or if you're doing an RPO, instead of just telling him, hey, you run to the B gap or the C gap, run up the middle is great, but if he has a fullback and some blockers or just an O-line to pull, just as long as he's able to kind of get right, like a couple yards, basically like a running start, then I think he has a better chance. And that's what they've been doing the last couple weeks. They've been putting more, creating more pullers to come out. Linder, the center, has. They also had, a fullback, quote. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't even know what they were with tight end. I don't even remember who was playing fullback.
Jeff Swaim. I think it was Jeff Swaim.
Exactly. Yeah, the tight end. So, but when you give him those extra blockers and you put Minshew under center, the success rate goes way up. So I think as long as they keep that up, I think they'll be fine. Same with and that's against the Saints as well. I think he's gonna run all over the Saints, and this momentum is gonna continue.
Yeah, and I think they have to go to him to kind of take some of that pressure off Minshew. You can't rely on him passing every play, and him to kind of drive the team downfield. I mean, he is a playmaker. But you got to have Fournette in there, kind of taking some of the pressure off of him.
Yeah, and that's what they did actually against the Broncos. Now, when during that last drive, Minshew made some amazing throws. But more than half the time, it was Leonard Fournette getting 3 or 4 yards a pop. So that's really what got them down the field. And just as long as Minshew, stayed consistent, which he did, that's how they were able to get down and score to take the lead at the end of the game. But it was all Fournette, to be like, not all Fournette, obviously, but he definitely got them down the field. And Minshew was able to, take that over and, end the game with his arm. But Fournette is a huge piece to that puzzle.
Yep. Agreed. So tight end James O'Shaughnessy, as we've heard, season-ending ACL tear, he will be out for the rest of the season. Doesn't really leave us in a good spot for tight end. I think it leaves us with Jeff Swaim and, Josh Oliver, who's, still out with a hamstring injury. Do you see Jacksonville going to free agency and maybe, picking up a tight end?
They should. I think they should. They did bring back Koyak. So that's good. And I think he's actually a pretty good receiving tight end. Ben Koyak.
I think.
Yeah, Ben Koyak. I don't remember. There was one game. Didn't he catch a touchdown kind of like late in a game last season, or maybe it was 2 seasons ago? I'm going to have to look up, because I don't believe it was O'Shaughnessy. I think Koyak, he was doing a lot of good things for Jacksonville, and, I'm not sure why they didn't have him play. He wasn't on the roster, but luckily they brought him back, and I think he's going to do well with this team for sure.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Jeff
somebody.
Swaim. Yeah. Jeff Swaim, I have not been impressed with. With the penalties, in the Broncos game, that killed us. In that, the second half, he had, I want to say 3 or 4 penalties. that game, and then it was just killer. But we'll see what happens. O'Shaughnessy, it's just really disappointing because I feel like he was, on the verge of a great season. He made that one ridiculous catch, in the first half where it was like a bobble catch.
Yeah, and, that was amazing. The gravity fell in his favor too on that one. Ooh, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to talk about Marquise Lee for a little bit. He caught, a pass in the Broncos game. I want to say it was maybe the last drive where he caught a short pass.
Mm-hmm,
for like
really
5 yards.
Pass. Yeah, it was that first down that they needed.
Yeah, and then he also caught another one in this last game against the Panthers, and it was the final drive where he needed to get a first down and he got out of bounds. Do you see him having more of an impact, in the next couple games? Do you see him kind of maybe strengthening his relationship with Minshew, kind of like DJ Chark and Minshew? You kind of see that happening, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's tough because he hasn't really been. He hasn't really done much at all, in this season so far. And it's really tough to say because I think that Dede is kind of being more of that impact player that we used to see Marquise Lee in that role. If you look at the trend of targets, it only goes from 1 target in the Broncos game to 2 targets in Carolina. So, maybe he'll get 3 this weekend.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's really about, what they plan to do deep. And he's not really the guy that is catching much deep. Because the Saints play, the defense that they like to play is they're blitzing you, and they're only putting, cover 2, or sometimes it'll just be, 1 safety back there. I think the big plays are going to be the deep plays, and I just don't see Marquise Lee being that guy that's, jumping up to get a 50-50 ball. But if you put him on crosser routes, then I think he could be more of an impact, but then there's Dede. So I think his role will only go up if Dede's, production goes down.
Right.
So, but I'd say, go with the hot hand, whatever is working. And if you give it to him slowly but surely, then maybe, like you're saying, he could mold into the offense a little bit more. But if Dede is taking that, then I would say just roll with Dede. Just as long as he doesn't have those drops like Keelan Cole. So then.
Yeah.
Then Marquise Lee may step into that role a little bit more. But I don't know, I think Dede's doing a great job. And it's tough because you think about Marquise Lee year 1, and they called him, what was that, the albino tiger, because you never really saw him because he was always hurt. So it's the last year it was great, but it's kind of scaring me again. I'm not really sure how to feel about Marquise Lee right now.
Yeah. I agreed. I'm hoping he can make more of an impact because, we definitely need all we can have, in the wide receiving core. So it was definitely one of my, concerns going into the season is, are we going to have depth at the wide receiver position? Because I think that was a huge impact last year, a huge issue, with our wide receivers not able to get separation, and get open. So and they're young guys. They have more, they're leaner. So now we have, the Jags have another year of these guys in the weight room. With Keelan Cole, DJ Chark, Dede Westbrook, Chris Conley is already, he's a veteran. But yeah, that was the really big problem last year, which was just them getting open in general and the line holding long enough to allow them to run their routes. So yeah, I think, every year, we were assuming they were going to get better and better.
And honestly, I didn't think that this would be such a great situation at the wide receiver position. This
Yeah,
offense
I agree.
definitely surprised me. It's just a shame that they didn't. Honestly, that Dave Caldwell didn't do anything to get a more solidified, um, you know, team for the tight end position. So I think that's more of a concern. Um, and the wide receivers are doing great right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because it was like my biggest concern coming into this season, and then now it's like, I feel a lot more at ease. So
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
great,
great.
but
Yeah,
but
crazy, right?
yeah, I know it is. So let's transition to defense. Last game against the Panthers, our linebacking core looked terrible. Quincy Williams getting burned, missing tackles by, on Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Um, do you see Dave Caldwell going to free agency again? Maybe see if we can pick up another linebacker, or hopefully Jake Ryan, coming back from his injury. What do you kind of see happening?
Well, I hope it's not this. I honestly, it's concerning that they think that a guy like Quincy Williams could come into, one of the biggest positions on the field from, no hate on Quincy because, he's a great player, but I think that especially in a position like the linebacker position, and you don't have a solid middle linebacker, like Miles Jack he's not a huge guy. He's not making bone crunching hits. Okay, I
Yeah,
think if they had a better quarterback on their defense, like a better, more solid linebacker, then maybe Quincy Williams, would have a better chance to succeed. But I think they put him in such a bad position by being one of the most, crucial players on the defense, and you have to guard a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who's gonna burn you every time, and he did. It's it's very frustrating to see. Honestly, I didn't think that he would be the starting Will. I thought that they would have gotten somebody,
yeah,
especially because you have, or allow Josh Allen to drop back more, because then you
yeah,
have, Josh Allen, and he's a rookie as well. So you're and it's not like Ronnie Harrison has been in there much. Well, I mean,
yeah,
for his entire career. Um, Leon Jacobs, Gerard Wilson. These are all so young. They're all such young guys, and it's. I think they've done okay, but not great at all the entire season. Not just the last game. I don't think they've done a great job the entire season at all.
agreed.
I would hope that they would bring in a linebacker that has a little bit more experience, just in terms of knowing how to plug in the gaps of on a running play, because the
Yeah,
rushing is terrible. They allowed the Panthers to get 10 yards per carry. 10. They averaged
yeah.
10. And I think
I think
they're like almost they're dead last, I'm pretty sure, in rushing D.
yeah, I think they gave up like 285 yards rushing. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, and
Like,
and I saw a tweet by somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they were saying, it's funny, last year they got Darius to plug in the middle, or maybe it was 2017, and that solved their rushing issue. That solved their defensive rushing issue. Like, boom, one player to put in against the guards on the offensive line. They got a new defense lineman, and boom, they were able to stop the rush. Now it's
yeah,
okay. We don't have the two linebackers that we had, and they completely fall apart. So
yeah, and
it's really concerning that they don't have more guys at the linebacker position.
couldn't agree with you more. I think Telvin Smith really left a void when he sat out this season, and then you have Miles Jack, who I think is just kind of playing undersized. I mean, this guy last year came in at 220 pounds, and I mean, I think he put on about 20 pounds this year, so he's about 240. He's where he needs to be, but I just think he's just not getting it done from, you know, stopping the rush. So I think they're definitely going to have to go outside, or hopefully Jake Ryan comes in and saves us. But I'll close out here with the New Orleans game and your outlook. You know, to me, this could be like a little bit like my thoughts on the Kansas City game. This could be, you know, a close game or a blowout. But just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on how the game's going to go on Sunday for Jacksonville.
So I think big plays are going to win this game. I think that if they attack their safeties, they have a great chance of winning, because Minshew is definitely going to throw it up. You know, Lattimore is good, but I think that DJ could, you know, beat him, especially with the backside, you know, fade routes. I think those are great because the corners on the New Orleans Saints, they don't really turn around. They don't really turn their head. So I think that they're going to have a lot of you know, back shoulder throws. I think the Leonard Fournette, I think he's going to have a pretty good game as well. Now it's something where the flat route is going to come into play, like his check down, Minshew's check down. So if they have Fournette block and then kind of go out to be his, you know, his safety net, if you would say, then I think that the offense will be, you know, pretty okay. It's really about the defense, and they need to play press. They need to get up on these wide receivers, because Bridgewater, you need to put him under pressure. The offensive line is not that good for the Saints. Like, they're okay. But when you put a lot of pressure on Bridgewater, then he tends to see ghosts in a way, and he'll get rid of the ball, not even realizing where he's throwing it, because he's just trying to get rid of it. So I think they need to blitz, they need to press, clog up those wide receivers, and they can have a really good chance of, you know, winning this game for sure. I think it's not such a. I don't think it's going to be like the Kansas City Chiefs, to be honest. I think that, like, the outlook is similar, like you were saying. Kansas City Chiefs offense is pretty dominating, and I think actually the Jaguars defense will be able to. Hopefully, they can shut them down.
Yeah, I definitely see them playing, like you said, more man pressing. You know, the wide receivers. I'm really hoping Jalen can play in this game. You know, I could see them probably putting him up on Michael Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Or, you know, if he doesn't play, you know, Boye's probably going to be on him. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting, but hope Jalen can play, because that will definitely help. I feel like our odds in winning this game
go up.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, significantly. Yeah,
especially if they let him play his game. You know, quote what he says. Oh, you know, just as long as they let me play my game. Listen, Jalen, if you want to play, they will let you play your game, especially this week. It's gonna be a good one. Yeah,
definitely. Well, hey, Laurie, thanks so much for joining me and taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it, and you know, wish you the best on all your endeavors. I'll keep watching you on on Twitter for the in-depth game analysis, and you know, maybe I can get you on again for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Let me get that. JYD coming up with the big sack. Quarterbacks beware, we on the prowl. Game day night, you could hear it in our growl. Intimidation on to keep their hearts racing. Eating other teams live on TV front of the nation. Spectacular defensive scheme.
This episode is available on the Jaguar Podcast YouTube channel. So if you stop by, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. Also, these episodes are available on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other major podcast distributors as well. So if you don't mind, please leave me a review and some feedback. I'd really appreciate that. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, my Twitter handle is @JaguarPodcast. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. This is Andrew signing off. Cheers.